A lone warrior fights for his life against the crashing waves while a massive storm rages across the ocean. He grips his spear with every bit of strength he has left and prepares to strike the enemy one last time. The monstrous beast looms over the bloody battlefield as it finally reaches its absolute breaking point. After taking so much damage from our hero, it seems like the nightmare creature's about to lose its hold on life. Our spear-wielding hero launches himself high into the air and ignores the laws of gravity to deliver a killing blow. He focuses all of his remaining strength into the tip of his weapon as he descends from the stormy sky. A massive bolt of energy strikes the dragon right between its eyes and illuminates the entire sky with a blinding flash. The force of the impact sends massive shockwaves through the air as the beast screams in agony. The spear finds its mark and shatters the creature's vital core into a million glowing pieces. An intense explosion of energy erupts from the point of impact as the dragon's life force begins to bleed out into the rain. Despite being covered in blood and barely able to stand, he starts laughing like a total madman. He looks absolutely wrecked from the brutal encounter, but his face is filled with the pure satisfaction of a hard-earned victory. He honestly can't believe he still has the energy to laugh after everything he just went through. He finally accomplished his goal, and the overwhelming relief of winning the fight is starting to wash over his exhausted mind. Even though his body is pushed to the absolute limit, he just keeps laughing while blood sprays into the air. He doesn't give a single damn that his physical form is a total wreck because he finally finished the job. He stands tall despite being covered in deep gashes and drying blood from the fight. His smirk says everything you need to know about how far he is willing to go to get what he wants in this world. Blood drips steadily from his fingertips and stains the mud as the adrenaline finally begins to drain away. Every muscle in his arm must be screaming in agony after such a long and brutal exchange of blows. A majestic dragon spirit looks down at the chaos from the clear sky while reflecting on its lost fate. It was only 1 year away from reaching its goal of ascension and becoming a true god. He lived as a sacred beast for 999 long years, just waiting for the moment to become a true dragon. He was literally at the finish line and ready to ascend before his life was cut short. He grinds his teeth in a fit of rage as his ancient power continues to surge through his broken body. The terrifying look in his eyes shows that he is still a dangerous predator despite the damage he took. The massive creature lets out a roar that shakes the very foundations of the earth as it lunges at the human who dared to challenge it. The scale of the monster makes our guy look like a tiny bug about to be crushed. He calls the beast a complete fool while dropping to one knee and struggling to keep his balance in the mud. He is coughing up blood and looks like he is about to pass out from sheer exhaustion. The dragon beast finally crashes into the earth and sends mud and debris flying everywhere in the pouring rain. The silence that follows the beast's fall is almost louder than the world-shaking roars from a moment ago. He mutters that he has finally repaid his massive debt to his savior and can finally find some rest. It turns out there was a much deeper reason for this fight than just hunting a monster for sport. He looks up at the sky and asks if they are finally finished as the rain washes the blood from his face. He is exhausted and ready for whatever comes next, whether it is peace or his own end. Suddenly, a mysterious red eye slits open within the darkness and pulses with a terrifying, eerie light. Something ancient and powerful is waking up, and it does not seem happy about the current situation. A booming voice echoes through the void and demands to know who exactly the human thinks he is talking to. A massive burst of red energy erupts from the beast and starts to swallow everything in sight. A pillar of fire and light blasts toward the heavens and completely obliterates the surrounding landscape in an instant. The force of the explosion pushes the ocean waves back as if the world itself is being torn apart. Drifting through a dark void, he can't help but think about how pointless it is for everything to end this way after 1,000 years. He is trapped in a gap between space and time with nothing but his own regrets. A shimmering white silhouette appears in the darkness and looks like a completely new form of existence. The figure has long flowing hair and a slender frame that gives off an otherworldly and majestic presence. The spirit reaches out and touches the darkness, causing reality to crack like a sheet of fragile glass. Red energy begins to leak through the fractures as a strange new transformation begins to take place. His eye snaps open as he wonders if he managed to survive that massive blast of energy. He starts to realize that his journey might not be over, and a small spark of hope begins to flicker. 2 sharp horns sprout from the head of the white spirit as it starts to take on a more beastly and powerful aspect. The transition is happening fast, and it is clear he is becoming something entirely new. He looks down at his chest and sees a human heart beating with a bright pink light inside of his dark frame. It is a surreal sight that blends his spiritual essence with a new form of biological life. He realizes that while the energy in his core is completely gone, there is still an incredible strength remaining in his physical body. He is basically a walking powerhouse that is currently running on a dead engine. Even though they managed to seal his primary power source, a mysterious new energy starts surging through his body like a second wind. He realizes he is far from finished and prepares to show his true power. He scoffs at the idea that they thought sealing his core would be enough to keep him down for good. He starts to gather every scrap of dark energy into a swirling vortex as he prepares to break free. He glares forward with absolute determination while preparing to shatter the spiritual chains that are holding him back. He is not going to let a sealed core stop him from reclaiming his true strength. With a massive roar, he unleashes a burst of energy and commands the seal to break once and for all. The ground beneath him shatters while he exerts his indomitable will over the surrounding space. The spiritual form dissolves into fragments on a dusty floor as a weary sigh echoes through a quiet room. The high-stakes drama has finally transitioned into a physical reality inside this mysterious chamber. A tiny black nose twitches as the small creature struggles to catch its breath on the cold floor. It complains that it has absolutely no strength left and can barely even lift its own head. He looks around and finds himself standing on a literal mountain of gold and legendary artifacts hidden deep within a secret chamber. This massive vault is packed with more wealth than most kingdoms see in a lifetime. One glance tells you everything you need to know about this place. This isn't just any vault. It is filled with extraordinary items that would make even the greediest adventurer lose their mind. Our boy wanders through the massive piles of gold, wondering who could possibly be the master of such a treasury. The sheer scale of the wealth is enough to make anyone's head spin. He notices a strange stone monument sitting right in the middle of all the glittering riches and sparkling jewels. It stands out like a sore thumb because it has ancient text written across its rough surface. Upon closer inspection, the text reveals something quite unexpected. It is actually a monument dedicated to a young child, which feels a bit out of place for a legendary hoard. Our protagonist pauses to process this weird discovery. He starts to wonder if this entire legendary treasury was actually just a place meant for raising a kid. He feels a strange sense of respect for whoever left this behind. He considers if he should at least recite a prayer to honor their memory before he starts looting the place. But as he goes to move, he feels something weird and squishy. His eyes widen in total shock as he realizes something is very wrong with his own physical body. Looking down at his new limbs, his brain just short-circuits. He catches a glimpse of his own reflection and immediately panics, wondering what on earth happened to his face. He realizes his new arms are so short that he can barely even reach out in front of himself, let alone defend his tiny body from danger. Things go from bad to worse when he realizes his new midsection is just a round, tubby belly that jiggles with every single movement he makes. Our boy tries to stretch out his cheeks, hoping this is all just a bad dream. He looks like a chubby little mascot instead of a terrifying beast of legend. He is having a full-blown identity crisis right now. He keeps poking at himself trying to figure out why his body feels so small and bouncy. He stares at his full reflection and lets out a silent scream of pure frustration because he is absolutely tiny compared to the massive treasure pile surrounding him. He squishes his own cheeks in pure disbelief. He cannot wrap his head around being something this pathetic when he is supposed to be a legendary monster. Slumping down onto a pile of gold coins, the reality finally starts to set in. He realizes that it is what humans call reincarnation, though it is not exactly the power fantasy he expected. He closes his eyes and takes a deep breath to calm his racing thoughts. He does not fully understand the situation yet, but panicking isn't going to help him survive. Our boy decides to pull himself together and focus on the immediate future. He needs to see what he can actually do, because there might be something helpful hidden in this vault. As he scouts the area, he cannot help but judge the previous owner. From his perspective, whoever gathered all this stuff had absolutely terrible taste in decorations. He stops to inspect a silver shield but has a terrified face carved right into the metal. Honestly, his new little dragon nose is finding everything in here a bit too dusty. Our boy finds an old artifact and gives it a quick slap to check its quality. He recognizes the magical aura immediately and notes that it is under a classic curse. He moves on to a glowing blue bottle and wonders if it is one of those cursed potions. You know, the kind that take your voice in exchange for a pair of legs. After looking at a few more items, he realizes they are mostly high-quality junk. He lets out a disappointed huff of smoke as he continues his search for real power. He settles his tiny butt on a treasure chest and kicks a stray red gemstone. For a legendary dragon, this collection is starting to feel a bit underwhelming and basic. Our boy narrows his eyes as he spots something reflecting light in the distance. His instincts are finally starting to kick in again despite his fluffy exterior. He pushes further into the vault where the gold seems to glow even brighter, revealing a literal sea of wealth that stretches out further than he can see. The little creature stands there completely paralyzed by the sight of the glittering treasure piles because he can feel his inner greed starting to stir. The greed finally takes over and he starts celebrating. He realizes he has officially hit the mother lode and screams out that he just found the ultimate jackpot. He spots a particular gemstone and bolts toward it with everything his tiny legs have. This is not just some shiny rock. It is a gemstone with immense innate power. Our boy stares at the purple crystal with sparkling eyes. This thing is a genuine magical artifact, and its value is probably higher than half the gold in this entire room. Our boy decides that this legendary prize is coming home with him no matter what happens because his greed has completely taken over his common sense. He grabs the crystal and tries to pull it free from its golden mounting. He is so focused on the loot that he has completely forgotten about his tiny physical limits. The gemstone is stuck tight and does not budge even an inch. Our boy is a bit surprised by the resistance, but he is not about to give up on such a find. He puts his whole weight into it and starts pulling with all his might. His face is starting to turn red from the effort as he struggles against the metal stand. He is straining every single muscle in his tiny body while letting out a frustrated grunt because the purple crystal refuses to come loose from its stand. He gives it one final desperate tug with all the power he can muster. He is convinced that if he just pulls a little bit more, he will finally claim his legendary prize. Our boy suddenly loses his footing and starts tumbling through the air. Even though he is falling, he is still clutching that purple jewel like his life depends on it. He realizes he is in free fall, but his determination is on another level. He is absolutely refusing to let go of his prize, no matter how hard he hits the ground. Down he goes, bouncing off the massive pile of gold coins and treasures like a literal soccer ball, all the way to the bottom of the treasure hoard. Finally stopping at the base, he rubs his head and groans in pain. This is a huge blow to his pride because a fall like this wouldn't have even scratched him in his past life. He breathes a sigh of relief that his hard-earned treasure is still safe in his paws, but that relief is short-lived when the entire room begins to rumble. Sensing a massive presence, our boy snaps into a defensive stance. A strange blue light begins to crackle in the air right in front of him. A massive vortex of magical energy erupts, and the pressure in the room suddenly skyrockets as he feels the raw power radiating from the center of the whirlpool. He watches the energy swirl around his feet and wonders if he could have even handled this in his prime. The situation is looking worse by the second. Despite the overwhelming pressure, he tries to maintain his dignity. He reminds himself that he is the legendary emo Ogi of the Divine Black Dragon and should not be cowering in front of anyone. The blue energy forms a massive swirling portal that illuminates the entire treasure room with a blinding light that he cannot easily ignore while in this state. A massive clawed hand suddenly reaches out from the golden light. The sheer size of this thing is enough to make anyone rethink their life choices. Just seeing those talons is a major red flag. A giant blue eye opens and stares directly at him with an intensity that could melt stone. The rumble of its presence is enough to shake his very soul. A towering golden dragon finally reveals its full majestic form, making our protagonist look like nothing more than a tiny lizard in the presence of a god. Even though he is shaking, our little dragon tries to act tough. He calls out to the giant, asking if it really thinks it can win with just an intimidation tactic. He grits his teeth and prepares to show off some of his own power. He is not about to let this golden giant think he is just some helpless pet. He channels his inner pride and attempts to unleash a massive roar that he expects will shake the very heavens and terrify his opponent. The golden dragon just stands there looking completely bewildered. A giant question mark practically appears over its head as it tries to process what just happened. Instead of a world-ending roar, our boy let out the most pathetic little squeak imaginable. The giant dragon is genuinely confused by the tiny sound coming from the floor. Our little protagonist falls onto his back in shock as the reality of his new body hits him. The golden dragon looks down and realizes it is just dealing with a tiny hatchling. The golden dragon lowers its massive head to inspect the intruder and asks the shivering little hatchling if he is actually scared out of his mind. The little guy completely loses his remaining courage and starts shivering in tears as he realizes just how helpless he is against such a monster. The overwhelming golden energy begins to shift as the massive dragon decides to change its strategy and try a much gentler approach for the visitor. The terrifying beast transforms into a stunning woman in a white dress who scoops the hatchling up and asks if he feels better seeing her in this form. Our little dragon boy finds himself being cradled by a beautiful blonde woman in a room overflowing with gold. This girl looks like an angel, but he has no clue why she is holding him like a pet in this strange place. She looks him in the eye and says the name Christina. Our boy is totally confused and wonders if she is introducing herself or giving him a new identity right on the spot. Our protagonist is just sitting there in a pile of coins, while she asks if he is doing okay. Shez looking at him with so much concern for a creature she just met. He tries to play it cool, but his stomach has other plans. He assumes she must be asking if he is hungry because the hunger is starting to get real. Christina notices him looking at a dark gem on the floor and her expression softens. She's clearly trying to figure out what this little guy needs to feel comfortable. Suddenly a loud noise echoes through the treasure chamber and it is definitely coming from our boy's gut. He turns bright red because his body is betraying his attempt to act tough. Our little dragon is dying of embarrassment because his stomach just won't stop growling. He desperately tries to ignore the hunger, but it is becoming impossible to hide anymore. He realizes that his primal instincts are starting to take over his logic. When you are this hungry, reason just goes right out the window. Christina sees the struggle and decides to take action by reaching into her magical storage. Our boy tells himself he needs to get a grip and stay focused on the situation. She pulls out a mysterious bottle filled with a golden liquid and he wonders what she is up to now. The suspense is killing him as he watches her every move. With a warm smile she holds up the bottle and a small treat for him to see. Shez being so nice that it is almost suspicious, but he is too hungry to care. The bottle is opened and the scent begins to waft through the air. It is a simple bottle of milk, but to a starving dragon, it looks like the greatest treasure in the room. Our boy catches a whiff of that delicious smell, and his nose starts twitching uncontrollably. He can tell right away that this is not your average grocery store milk. His eyes literally turn into sparkles as he looks at the bottle with pure desire. All his common sense is flying out the window because that drink looks absolutely heavenly. He takes a hard gulp as he stares at the offering. The temptation is way too strong for a little guy who hasn't eaten in who knows how long. A massive internal battle starts in his head as he wonders if he should actually accept a gift from a stranger. He is torn between his pride and his empty stomach. He hesitates for a moment longer while Christina just watches him with a patient smile. She is not rushing him, but the smell of that milk is doing all the heavy lifting. She starts to pull the bottle back and he realizes his window of opportunity might be closing fast. He definitely does not want to miss out on this meal. Our boy panics, thinking she is actually taking the food away from him. He lets out a surprised look because he is not ready to say goodbye to that milk yet. The blonde lady is totally caught off guard when the little black creature suddenly lunges forward to grab the milk bottle. He is clearly done waiting and decides to take his meal by force before she can pull it away. He starts chugging the milk like his life depends on it, while Christina watches him with a satisfied giggle. It is honestly the most wholesome thing you will see today. With a face covered in milk, our protagonist is absolutely shocked by how good it tastes. He tells himself it is just milk, but his reaction says otherwise. This is the best thing he has ever tasted and he is basically seeing stars from the deliciousness. He is clutching that bottle like it is his most prized possession. Christina asks if he likes it and he can only respond with happy little noises. Shez clearly won him over with just a single bottle of dairy. After he finishes his meal, she starts talking to him in a very serious but gentle tone. He listens closely as she begins to make him a life-changing offer. She stands up gracefully and extends her hand toward him with a look of pure kindness. Christina tells him that there are so many amazing things waiting for him out in the world, and this single moment changes everything for his future. She promises him that they will have so many fun experiences together if he decides to follow her. Shez offering him a life far beyond this dusty old treasure room. Our boy looks up at her and realizes that she is asking him to join her for good. He is starting to see that she might be the key to his future. He looks at her warm expression and decides that she doesn't seem like the kind of person who would ever want to harm him. He feels much safer trusting this woman than staying in a room full of gold. Survival is tough for a small dragon, and he knows he won't last long on his own without a guardian. He decides that maybe having a human around isn't such a bad idea. He reaches down to grab his purple gem while pretending that the delicious milk had nothing to do with his decision. He has to keep at least a little bit of his dignity. Our protagonist walks over and firmly grabs the edge of her white dress to show he is staying. He is officially choosing her as his partner, and he isn't letting go because this is the start of a legendary duo. Christina reaches down and gently scoops him up into her arms. She calls him a little one, and you can tell she is already feeling a strong bond with him. She pulls him into a warm hug, and he closes his eyes, feeling a sense of security for the first time. It is a total 188 from how their meeting started. He hears her thanking him just for being born, and it hits him right in the feels. Our boy realizes that he has finally found someone who truly cares for him. As he listens to her words, he begins to realize that the child she is actually talking about is the original owner of this body. This heavy realization makes him feel a bit guilty for taking over someone else's life. He concludes that the original soul of this dragon child most likely died during the ordeal before he arrived. It is a grim truth to process while being held so lovingly by someone who doesn't know the truth. In the cold darkness of the void, that original spirit drifted away into nothingness forever as a new soul took its place. Everything was just a blur of light and shadow as the soul transition finally began to take hold. He holds the mysterious purple crystal tightly, cherishing the only treasure that truly belongs to him as he begins his new life. He presents her with a high-grade magic stone, leaving her completely stunned by his unexpected generosity. He starts nuzzling against her cheek because he cannot have his only protector falling into a deep depression this early. Christina is absolutely smitten and asks if he is actually trying to comfort her after everything that happened. She carries him through the massive vaults while planning their next move in this golden paradise. Looking back over her shoulder, our boy feels a genuine sense of gratitude for this second chance at life. They start their new life together, surrounded by a literal mountain of riches and luxury. He stares ahead with a sharp look in his eyes, promising himself that he will not go out like a loser. He determines that he will exploit every single advantage to ensure his ultimate survival. After a long night of planning and resting, the morning sun finally begins to peek through the large windows. Our protagonist is fast asleep on a bed of silk and jewels, living the absolute dream life of a pet. He finally stirs from his deep sleep as the realization of his new reality sets in. He gives a massive stretch and lets out a tiny yawn that does not match his internal monologue at all. Sitting up, he looks around the bright room and realizes he is in a place overflowing with pure energy. Something catches his attention and he focuses his senses on the air flowing through the temple. The energy inside him begins to resonate as he taps into his hidden magical potential. He realizes that if he trains hard enough, he might one day reach her level of power. Since his middle dantian is already reacting this way, he can focus all his energy on his lower core instead. This entire area is a total goldmine because the air is thick with the purest mana imaginable. He nods to himself, satisfied that his new body is completely free of any impurities that would slow him down. He is satisfied with his progress but finds himself incredibly annoyed by a tiny distraction nearby. A glowing yellow spirit is constantly buzzing around his head like a hyperactive and annoying fly. He glares at the little ball of light, calling it a weird watchdog that just won't leave him alone. Our boy pokes at it and wonders if this annoying little thing ever actually goes to sleep. It turns out Christina summoned this spirit specifically to keep an eye on him while she was away. The spirit suddenly zips around with a burst of speed, nearly making our boy lose his balance. He watches in surprise as the golden light bolts toward the entrance of the temple. He realizes a little snitch is going to bring Christina right back here before he can finish his training. Sure enough, she comes running in, worried sick that her little one might be in some kind of danger. He flares his aura to demonstrate that he is far more powerful than anyone could ever imagine. He turns his back and looks toward the horizon, ready to face whatever challenges this new life throws at him. Our boy sat there with a serious look on his face, trying to plan his next move in this new world. He realized he needed a solid plan sooner or later if he was going to survive this situation. The little light spirit next to him just kept buzzing around while he stayed lost in thought. He tried to speak, but his new mouth structure made every word sound like a total mess. It was a struggle just to get the right sounds out, and he was clearly getting frustrated with himself. He was practically blushing from the embarrassment of not being able to communicate like a normal person. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of something moving and his entire body just tensed up. Our protagonist looked up as a gorgeous blonde woman named Christina floated into view, surrounded by magical blue energy. She looked like a goddess in that white dress, and our boy could barely keep his eyes off of her. He flopped over in excitement when she mentioned that it was already time for his next meal. She knelt down and wagged a finger at him, clearly amused by how much he loved his food. Our boy could only think about meat, but she just grabbed his cheek and gave it a playful squeeze. Christina is totally impressed by how much our little guy understands, calling him a genius for catching onto her words so quickly. He just sits there blushing, feeling a bit awkward about being treated like a total baby by such a beautiful girl. He looked away with a sweat drop, knowing he was actually a lot older and wiser than he looked. The blonde lady watched him intently as he moved around, trying to figure out what he was thinking. Without any warning, she reached out and scooped him up into her arms like a stuffed animal. He decided that getting on her good side was a top priority, so he started making some adorable noises. Her eyes sparkled with pure joy as she looked down at the tiny creature in her embrace. She pulled him into a tight hug, and our boy could feel her heart melting. Honestly, fair. She started talking about the food she had for him, while he just waited patiently for the goods. When she finally pulls out the drink, his eyes light up, because this is exactly what he has been waiting for this whole time. He reaches out with his tiny paws, ready to dive into that refreshing treat she brought to fill his stomach. He started chugging the milk, thinking to himself that acting like a baby was totally worth the reward. As he drank, he kept a close eye on her to see how she was reacting to his performance. Christina sat on the ground and started talking about her day while she watched him hold on to the bottle. She called him a little one, and her voice was so soft that he could not help but relax even though he was a fierce warrior in his past life. Our boy realized that in his past life as an imuihi, he barely had any friends. Yeah, that hit different. He figured she was just using him as a way to vent her feelings since he could not talk back. She looked a bit lonely as she gazed into the distance, sharing her thoughts with the only listener she had. He continued to eat while she laughed softly in the background, enjoying the peaceful moment they were sharing. A small, genuine smile spread across her face as she watched him finish his meal. He stopped for a second, sensing that she was about to ask him for something a bit strange. Just when he thinks he is in the clear, she drops the big question and asks if he would be willing to turn on the charm just for her. It is a bold request that catches him completely off guard right after his meal. The blonde girl is absolutely beaming with anticipation, her eyes literally sparkling as she waits for him to agree to her silly request. She looks so genuinely excited that it is becoming harder and harder for him to turn her down. He set the empty bottle down, knowing he had to give her what she wanted after that meal. Our boy put on his best smile and let out a happy cry that made him look absolutely precious. He thought it was only fair to return the favor after she took such good care of him today. She could not help herself and started poking his chubby cheeks, completely satisfied with her new little companion. Christina is just beaming at our boy, looking like a total angel while he lies there taking in all the affection. She starts gently stroking his head, and honestly, the affection is starting to grow on him more than he would like to admit. He finds himself leaning into the touch, feeling a sense of peace that he has not felt in a very long time. He thinks to himself that hearing her speak so sincerely really hits differently after everything he has been through. To him, Christina looks like she belongs in a field of sunflowers because she is just that warm and pure-hearted. She truly has a soul that shines brighter than the sun itself, and our boy is definitely captivated by her spirit. She tells him she needs to go grab something real quick and asks him to stay right where he is while she is gone. After she leaves him alone for a moment, he just flops onto the ground and stares into space with a completely blank expression. Even though he is acting lazy, his mind is racing as he tries to process everything he just heard. Suddenly, a memory flashes in his mind of another person who once said something very similar to him a long time ago. He remembers a girl with snow-white hair who used to look at him with that same kind of soft, caring expression. Back in this memory, a fox girl with several tails following around a tall guy with dark hair and sharp horns. This horned guy looks like he has the weight of the world on his shoulders, barely reacting to her presence behind him. The fox girl is being super playful, trying to get a reaction out of him while he just stands there acting all cool and distant. She looks him in the eye and asks what makes him act so cold, clearly trying to break through his tough exterior once and for all. Then she drops a heavy question, asking him if he has ever actually been truly happy in his entire life, or if he has ever known the feeling of being genuinely loved by someone who actually cares for his well-being. He just brushes it off, calling her cold, even though she claims that being a bit icy is actually part of his charm. The horned guy closes his eyes, clearly done with her teasing, but you can tell the conversation is actually getting to him. Suddenly, she drops a bombshell and declares that she has decided to finally become a human once and for all. She is practically glowing with excitement as she explains her plan, sounding more determined than she has ever been before. She suddenly realizes that her search is finally over because she has found someone who truly matters to her heart. It is a massive turning point in her journey that changes the way she views her entire existence. Her eyes are filled with this intense longing, showing just how much this choice actually means to her heart. She starts to step away, wondering aloud if it is only natural for someone to want to reciprocate those deep feelings. She leans in close to him, her face full of desperate intensity, as she continues to pour her heart out while he watches her in silence. She calls him an idiot, joking that he probably wouldn't even recognize a good thing if it was standing right in front of him. He knows that if she becomes human, she won't be able to come back to this place, but he chooses not to ruin her moment. He realizes that her happiness matters more than his own desire to keep her around him. He looks at her one last time, silently wishing for her to be loved and live a joyful life, because he actually got attached. It's one of those moments where silence speaks louder than words, and he truly hopes she finds what she is looking for. The fox girl looks like she is on the verge of tears, frustrated that he is still acting like a brick wall in their final moments. She begs him to just say something mean like he usually does, instead of just standing there with that sad look on his face. Finally, she just yells at him, calling him a total idiot as she lets out all the emotions she was trying to hide. She runs off into the distance, screaming that she doesn't care anymore because he is just a dense and stubborn dragon. Even with all the yelling, a small and sad smile creeps onto her face as she moves toward her new human life. Her final words to him are a quiet thank you, showing that she really did appreciate their time together despite the drama. Back in the present, our boy is still struggling to fully understand what those words meant all that time ago. Christina comes rushing back into the room, looking relieved to see that her little friend hasn't gone anywhere while she was out. He sees her coming and decides that he wants to find his own way to repay her for being so kind to him today. Our boy puts on his most adorable face and lets out a happy cry, ready to be the best companion Christina ever had. Our protagonist is feeling pretty confident after showing Christina how much has grown. He looks up at her with those big pink eyes, expecting a proud reaction for all his hard work. But instead of a smile, Christina is hunched over, covering her face and shaking. Our boy completely freezes up and starts panicking, wondering if he actually made her cry by accident. Before he can even process what is happening, she lunges forward like a predator. Her hands wrap around him in a sudden blur of motion that catches him totally off guard. It turns out she was just overwhelmed by how cute he is because she pulls him into a suffocating hug. Our girl is literally radiating hearts, while our protagonist just stands there looking like his soul is leaving his body. Once she finally lets him breathe, she gives him a gentle pat on the head to make up for the squeeze. He takes it in stride, realizing that being adorable is apparently a dangerous job. Christina suddenly stops her pampering session as a thought strikes her. She mentions that she almost forgot something important she brought along for him to see. Our boy watches intently as she reaches down into her brown travel bag. His mind immediately goes to his stomach, hoping that whatever she is digging for happens to be a delicious snack. His eyes go wide as he senses something unusual coming from the satchel. This definitely isn't the vibe of a normal piece of fruit or some dried meat. She pulls out a massive, mysterious white object and holds it up with a giant grin, looking like she just won the lottery. Our boy stares at it in total shock, sensing that whatever she is holding contains an immense amount of energy. As it turns out, this isn't just some random snack she picked up on the road. This is a legendary phoenix egg, one of the rarest treasures in the entire world. And she was just carrying it around in a plain brown bag. The egg begins to emit a soft, pulsating glow from deep within the shell. Something is definitely moving inside, and it looks like our protagonist's life is about to get even more chaotic. Legends speak of a magnificent bird that lives in an eternal cycle of death and rebirth. This phoenix is a creature of pure flame that never truly fades away. Our little protagonist just sits there looking absolutely adorable with those big pink eyes and tiny bat wings. He looks like a cross between a kitten and a dragon, and honestly, he is just vibes. He reaches out with one of his small paws and grabs onto a leather strap, clearly on a mission to get his hands on something important inside that bag. The little guy makes a bold move to grab the bag right in front of the blonde woman. She is stunned into silence while watching this tiny creature fearlessly claim his prize. Our boy stops and looks into the bag, revealing it is filled to the brim with glowing golden eggs. He reaches in to grab one, looking like he just found the ultimate treasure stash. He precise are drawn realizing this. Her HP bar drawn realizing that he pull one of the eggs out of the leather sack. It is a struggle, but he is not giving up easily. Success comes at last as he pulls the egg out and holds it between his paws while sitting on the floor. He looks so satisfied with himself for managing to secure his prize. Without any hesitation, he cracks the shell open right in front of the horrified blonde woman. She is clutching her face in shock, but our protagonist is only focused on the meal inside. He finally manages to get a good grip on the contents of the egg and thinks to himself that he finally got it open. The shell falls away to reveal a perfectly golden and shiny yolk that looks incredibly appetizing and rare. Our boy does not waste a single second and opens his mouth wide to take a massive bite of the golden center. He is absolutely loving the flavor and looks like he just tasted heaven while golden juice drips down his chin. He holds on to the egg tightly because he is definitely enjoying the snack. While the blonde woman watches with a nervous smile, our boy continues to chow down on the eggs like there is no tomorrow. He is making quite the mess, but he clearly does not care one bit. He licks his chops and looks back at the bag, ready to go for seconds without even pausing to breathe. This little guy has a massive appetite for someone so small and cute. The blonde woman brings over a large bottle of liquid and sets it down right next to him. Our boy looks up with sparkling eyes, realizing that a drink is exactly what he needs to wash it all down. He grabs the bottle and starts chugging the contents with pure desperation, looking like he hasn't had a drink in years. He is really going for it. He thinks to himself that the liquid goes down really easily because the texture is so soft and smooth against his throat. After finishing the drink, he lets out a satisfied huff and starts poking around at the remaining eggs in the bag to find his next target. One specific egg catches his attention because it is unusually red and much harder than the others he has eaten so far. He gives it a little tap with his paw to test its strength. Since it seems a bit too tough for him to crack right now, he decides to just save this one for later. He pushes it aside and moves on, clearly planning out his future snacks. Our boy finally hits his limit and collapses onto his back with a massive bloated stomach. He lets out a thunderous burp that echoes through the room. Man, that is pure comedy. The blonde woman finds the whole display hilarious and starts poking his round belly with a big grin on her face. She thinks he is the cutest thing ever, even when he is basically a living balloon. She starts gently petting his head, and despite his tough exterior, our boy seems to be really enjoying the attention. He closes his eyes and lets her pamper him after his big feast. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps interrupts the peaceful moment as a pair of high heels clicks against the stone floor. Our boy looks over with one eye open, wondering who is coming to crash the party. The clicking sound of the heels gets louder and closer as someone approaches the area where they are resting. He starts to think that he really shouldn't have overeaten so much because now he can barely even move his own body. He lets out a massive yawn, stretching his tiny jaws wide as the exhaustion from his meal finally starts to set in and take over. His eyes begin to flutter shut as he loses the battle against sleep, his vision fading into darkness as he drifts off. He curls up into a tiny ball inside a soft basket and falls fast asleep, looking completely peaceful and content. The chaos of earlier is totally forgotten now that he is in dreamland. His little ear twitches as a sudden sound catches his attention even in the middle of his deep sleep. Our boy slowly opens his eyes, blinking away the sleep as he tries to figure out what just woke him up from his nap so suddenly. He pushes himself up with his tiny paws, looking a bit groggy as he sits up in the basket and looks around the room to find the source of the noise. Our protagonist sits up in his basket and takes a moment to shake off the cobwebs after his long rest. He spots something bright and shiny nearby and wonders what kind of treasure he found. He spots something interesting nearby and wonders what it could be as he stares intensely at a new object in the distance with curiosity. It turns out to be another basket completely filled with more of those golden eggs. His eyes light up instantly as he realizes that round 2 is about to begin, and his hunger is already coming back. Just the thought of those delicious golden eggs has our hero licking his chops in excitement. He wipes a bit of drool from his mouth as he prepares to claim his well-earned reward. His wings give a little flutter of pure excitement as he prepares his next move. He has got a plan brewing in that small head of his, and it's definitely going to involve some destruction. Our protagonist tells himself that he is just trying to absorb some fire mana to get stronger. Honestly, we all know he is just hungry, but whatever helps him justify his actions is fine. He plants his tiny feet firmly on top of one of the massive golden eggs. It is time to see if these things are as tough as they look, or if they will finally crack. His diamond-shaped eye narrows as he feels a sudden shift in the air. Something is reacting to his presence, and he can feel the heat starting to rise from beneath his feet. Our boy looks down at the egg with a mix of curiosity and intense focus. He is not just looking for a meal anymore. He is looking for a way to tap into power. He decides that now is the perfect time to strike while the coast is clear. If he can do this while no one is watching, he can keep all that manhwa for himself. The energy begins to swirl around him in a violent purple haze. It is getting intense in here, and you can almost hear the hum of the power vibrating through the entire room. He throws everything he's got into a single concentrated point of force. This is not just a snack break anymore. It's a full-on battle against a stubborn and golden shell. A massive shockwave ripples outward as he makes contact with the golden surface. The sheer amount of manhwa being dumped into this one spot is enough to make anyone in the palace nervous. But then something weird happens as the egg starts to glow with a blinding orange light. Our boy is caught completely off guard because this definitely was not part of the original plan. He is forced to jump back as the energy becomes too much to handle. He was expecting a crack, but instead he got a miniature sun growing right in front of his eyes. His feet hit the ground with a soft thud as he tries to regain his balance. The floor is practically shaking from the force of whatever he just unleashed on that basket. He stops to lick his paw and realizes that these things are way tougher than they look. If he wants to get through that shell, he is going to need a lot more power. Our protagonist starts gathering a sphere of pure manhwa between his hands. He is not giving up that easily, and he is willing to push his limits to get what he wants today. He launches himself into the air once again with even more speed than before. This time he is not holding anything back, and he is aiming straight for the center of the pile. He screams out that he is going to pour every last drop of his strength into this one final attack. Purple electricity crackles around his tiny body as the energy ball grows larger and more unstable by the second. Suddenly, a massive shadow of a dragon appears behind him as his true nature begins to leak out for everyone to see. He is channeling a level of power that should be impossible for a creature his size to handle. Our boy releases a devastating beam of light that slams directly into the basket of eggs with the force of a falling star. The impact is so massive that it creates a pillar of fire stretching all the way to the ceiling. He lands back on the carpet looking completely drained from that massive display of power. He is breathing heavily and hoping that his effort was enough to finally get some results from the egg. A satisfied smirk crosses his face when he hears the beautiful sound of a shell cracking. He did it, and now it is finally time to reap the rewards of his hard work and hunger. Our boy leans in close and thinks to himself that he wants to see just how delicious this thing is. After working this hard, his expectations for a good meal are through the roof. Before he can even reach for his meal, the egg starts to shake violently and emit a strange light. Our boy jumps back in surprise as he realizes that something inside is trying to fight its way out. The little creature makes a small noise as it struggles to free itself from the remains of the egg. This is definitely not the roasted meal our boy was looking for after all that work. He stares at the newcomer with wide eyes and wonders what on earth he has just done. His brain is basically short-circuiting as he tries to process this very unexpected turn of events. A tiny white fluff ball peeks out from the basket and looks around the room with curiosity. It is the most adorable thing you have ever seen, but our boy is just staring blankly. Our boy thinks that this little thing is way too pure for this world. He was looking for power and a meal, but he ended up with a ball of sunshine that won't leave him. Our boy is caught completely off guard when a tiny white bird suddenly hatches from the egg right before his eyes. He looks down at the chirping newborn with a mix of shock and curiosity, unsure of what to do next. The bird lets out a happy chirp and leans into his touch, like they have been best friends forever. Honestly, this is kind of sweet, but our boy is still processing what just happened. He looks at the empty shell and realizes that he definitely felt the heat of a roasted egg earlier. So how did a live bird come out of that mess instead of his breakfast? The little fluff ball starts nuzzling against his cheek, and our boy looks like he's about to have an existential crisis. He just wanted to eat, but now he is stuck babysitting. A cold sweat breaks out on his face as he looks back at the bird with a sense of dread. Something tells him that his life is about to get a lot more complicated. Suddenly, the tiny bird is engulfed in a massive swirl of flames that fills the entire room. It looks like this little guy is packing way more power than its cute appearance suggests. Our boy is absolutely losing it. He watches as all the power he spent forever gathering gets sucked away by it like it was nothing. He is fuming because every bit of strength he built up just went straight to this guy. Talk about a bad day for our protagonist. He flops onto the ground in despair while this tiny white bird just stands there chirping at him. Hez definitely not in the mood for company. Our protagonist can't believe his eyes as the little bird follows him with its tiny feet. He starts complaining about how much effort he put into gathering that energy just for it to be stolen away in an instant. He gives the bird a side eye while a single tear rolls down his face. He's clearly suffering, but this little fluff ball does not care. The little bird keeps chirping and acting all cute around him. Our boy looks completely drained of life, while the bird just wants some attention. He wonders why this thing is being so affectionate all of a sudden. He is suspicious of anything that looks this innocent in this world. Our little guy suddenly senses something is off and his eyes widen in total shock. He realizes that this situation is way more complicated than he initially thought. The little bird simply tilts its head and looks back with big, innocent eyes. It has no clue that it is currently being carefully observed and analyzed by a very frustrated dragon. Our protagonist stands up and decides he needs to test his theory. If this thing really is a divine beast, then it should act accordingly. He starts trotting across the hall to see if the bird will actually follow him. The little creature does not hesitate for a second and stays right behind him like a loyal companion. He picks up the pace to see if he can shake it off. But no matter how fast he goes, those tiny legs keep up. He thinks to himself that this chase is getting ridiculous. No matter how many sharp turns he makes, this persistent little bird stays right on his heels. He desperately tries to run away while the persistent little creature continues to chase him in circles. It seems like a game of tag that he just cannot win no matter how hard he tries. He stops to catch his breath and realizes the theory was right. This bird is definitely not normal if it can keep up with him. After all that running, our protagonist is totally spent. He starts walking away again, but his wings and tail are dragging from pure exhaustion. The bird lets out a confused chirp when it sees him slowing down. It looks like it thinks the game of tag is finally over. The little white bird continues to chirp loudly while flapping its wings to get some attention. Our hero can only stare back blankly as he tries to process what this energetic creature actually wants. He finally just collapses onto the floor. He is completely done with everything and just wants to take a nap right where he stands. The bird keeps making those pia-pia sounds. Our boy is trying to ignore it, but it is hard when something is that loud right there. He notices something weird happening. The little bird is standing there and he hears these strange tapping sounds coming from the little white fluff ball. The poor little bird starts crying its eyes out as tears fall onto the floor. It lets out a series of pathetic whimpers that make the situation even more heartbreaking for anyone watching the scene. She searches through the quiet palace halls. Everything is silent as her footsteps echo against the stone walls while she looks for her little companion. She thinks about how much the little one must be hungry by now. She is rushing through the palace hoping to find him before the food cools. She starts running down the hall with urgency. Whatever she is carrying must be important because she is not wasting any more time. Inside the basket are a bunch of warm round objects that look like freshly cooked food. They are literally glowing with heat in her hands. She peeks around a corner with a big smile and calls out for her little one. She thinks she found exactly what she wanted. She looks down at the floor and sees a mess of shells scattered around. It seems he ate the eggs while waiting and fell asleep. The woman stops in her tracks when she sees our boy on the ground. She thinks he just ate too much and passed out. The tiny bird wags its tail happily as it finds a comfortable spot to rest. It seems completely content now that it has finally made a new friend to hang out with in the palace. Peace and quiet finally fill the room as sunlight streams in over the flowers. All the chaos from before has completely vanished as a calm atmosphere takes over. The pair finally falls into a deep sleep together after a long morning of chaos. Our protagonist curls up in the soft basket while the little bird snuggles right up against his stomach for warmth. She pauses at the doorway as she notices something she never expected to see today. Her expression shifts into one of deep contemplation as she watches the two unlikely companions resting together in peace. She calls out the bird's name again while holding her basket of food. Our boy is still out cold, but the bird is waking up. Her eyes widen in shock as she notices a strange energy beginning to emanate from the basket. She realizes that something incredible is about to happen right before her eyes. The girl freezes as her eyes lock onto the scene unfolding right in front of her. Something is definitely changing with that little bird. Suddenly, the room is filled with heat as the tiny bird begins to radiate an intense glow. It lets out a piercing cry while standing guard over the sleeping protagonist to keep him safe from harm. The tiny bird begins to radiate an incredible amount of heat and pure fire manhwa. It stands its ground with a fierce look in its eyes while preparing to protect its sleeping friend from any potential danger. This legendary sacred firebird is usually only found in the gardens of the gods. Seeing such a powerful being protecting a black dragon makes her realize that their meeting was destined by fate. The girl watches the scene in complete disbelief as she feels the overwhelming pressure of the bird aura. She knows she cannot use force to suppress such a divine creature, even if she wanted to. While she is lost in her own thoughts, our boy finally starts to stir and stretches out a tiny paw. Hez finally waking up to see the commotion. The bird looks absolutely panicked as the dark creature it was just protecting begins to wake up. It is staring wide-eyed as our boy opens his eyes. Before the little bird can even react, our boy reaches out and snags it with both paws. He has got a firm grip on his new feathered friend. He pulls the fluffy thing close to his face and opens his mouth wide. It looks like he might be going in for a bite, but instead of a snack, he just starts cuddling the life out of the poor bird. He is squeezing it like a plushie, and honestly, it is the cutest thing ever. The girl is just as confused as we are, wondering how a legendary bird even hatched from a roasted egg. Our boy just looks up at her and lets out a soft little chirp. The bird seems to accept its fate and snuggles right back against our boy's side. They are already becoming inseparable. The girl stays silent, her mind racing as she tries to process the sheer absurdity of the situation. She is sweating from the pressure of it all. Our protagonist stares back with those big pink eyes, looking completely innocent of the chaos he is causing. He has no idea why she is so stressed. She begins to wonder if this strange event is actually a massive anomaly that will change the fate of the entire world. One thing is for certain, this is not something she can just ignore and hope goes away. She has to take this seriously. She reaches out and summons a tiny ball of light named Roy to help manage the situation. The little spirit appears with a bright flash. While she holds on to the glowing spirit, a dark shadow of the powerful beast our boy could eventually become looms behind her. Little Roy starts chirping excitedly, telling the girl to trust in him as she gives a warm smile. This little spirit is ready to help. She beckons for our boy to come closer, but he just sits there and gives her another curious look. He is not moving an inch. Our boy is not having it today and just waves his paw like he is dismissing a servant. The attitude on this little guy is already off the charts. Even the bird looks a bit stunned by how much sass our protagonist is showing his guardian. He is definitely not an easy pet to manage. Deep down, she sees a glimpse of a powerful figure that used to stand behind this creature. The resemblance is getting harder to ignore. What really catches her off guard is the way our boy handles his manhwa. Most hatchlings are reckless and just swing their power around, but he is showing a level of control that is way beyond his age. She always knew he was a genius, but this is something else entirely. She mutters a quiet word to her master while watching him play around. Her thoughts drift back to the moment she first received that mysterious black egg from a hooded figure. That day changed her life forever, but she shakes those memories away because at the end of the day, the past does not change her duty. She has a job to do. Her mission is clear now. She is his guardian and his teacher, no matter where he came from or what he might become. She gives him a genuine, heartwarming smile that shows she is fully committed to raising him right. She really cares for the little guy. Meanwhile, our boy is back to poking the bird and annoying the light spirit like a typical kid. He is clearly enjoying the attention. In another part of the castle, a young boy with reddish hair is busy studying a heavy book. He looks like a student with a lot on his mind. He seems focused and serious, clearly preparing for the heavy responsibilities that come with his rank and status. The girl wonders if these two will ever cross paths. Who knows, maybe they will actually end up becoming good friends one day. A hand reaches out toward a glowing ball of light that seems to have its own personality. The morning sun shines brightly through the large windows of the elegant white room. Christina's giving our boy some last-minute instructions while he just stares back with those big pink eyes. He is trying his best to look like a good little pet. He is genuinely wondering why she is still hanging around instead of just leaving him to his business. He has things to do and people to see, but she is just standing there. Suddenly, she reaches out and gives his cheek a little squish, making him let out a confused squeak. He really wishes she would stop treating him like a common house pet, but he stays quiet. She gives him a sweet kiss on the forehead before finally deciding it is actually time to go. Our boy looks a bit annoyed by the affection, but he knows he just has to endure it for a few more seconds. Even the little bird nearby wants some of that affection and chirps about wanting a kiss too. Christina just laughs and smiles at the tiny creatures as she prepares to leave the room for the day. The heavy doors finally click shut, leaving our protagonist all alone in the quiet garden area. He waits for the sound of her footsteps to fade away into the distance before moving. Our little protagonist perks up his large ears and listens closely to the silence. He wants to make sure the coast is truly clear before he starts his grand exploration. Silence falls over the beautiful white structure, and the sunlight filters through the trees in peace. The entire room feels different now that he is the only one left inside the area. Our boy clenches his tiny fist and whispers that the time has finally arrived for his big move. He's been waiting for this moment, and he is not going to let it go to waste. He throws his arms up in the air and shouts about his newfound freedom with total joy. The little bird watches from the side as our protagonist celebrates his chance to finally explore on his own. A quick stretch is necessary because staying cooped up all day really does a number on the muscles. He feels much more active and ready to take on the world now that he is loosened up. He thinks to himself that being stuck in a cradle is honestly just too much for someone like him. He needs more space to move around and develop his skills without being watched every second. There were way too many restrictions keeping him from training properly, but those days are finally over. He intends to make the most of this opportunity while everyone else is busy elsewhere. He decides that walking around the cradle area should be fine now that the coast is clear. After all, nobody is around to stop him from exploring the limits of his current home. Our boy starts trotting across the stone floor with the little bird and the fairy following right behind. He has a destination in mind, and he is not wasting any time getting there. The bird lets out a chirp to get his attention, wanting to know exactly where they are headed. It seems like our boy has picked up a very talkative little sidekick for his journey. It keeps asking if they can go together while our boy gives it a very unimpressed look. He is not exactly looking for company, but the bird does not seem to care about his attitude. He stares down the little creature for a moment, clearly debating how to handle this annoying companion. The bird just stares back with those giant eyes and a hopeful expression on its face. Without warning, he leans in and grabs the bird by its wing to show it who is boss. It is a bold move, but he is trying to establish some boundaries before things get out of hand. He tosses the bird away, but the little guy just flutters back like it is a fun game. It seems that being a tiny creature means people and animals just will not take you seriously. Our protagonist sighs and decides to just let the bird ride on his back and ignore the distraction. He has bigger things to worry about than a persistent little bird following him around everywhere. His focus shifts back to the escape plan because he knows he cannot afford to waste any more time. The glowing light of the fairy continues to hover nearby as he makes his way across the floor. He continues his trek across the hall with the bird perched comfortably on his dark fur. Every step takes him closer to the giant doors and the mystery of what lies outside of this garden. Standing before the massive door, he calculates the distance and wonders if he can reach the handle. It is a long way up, but he has never been one to back down from a challenge. He crouches low and prepares his tiny muscles for the most important jump of his life. He knows he only has one shot to reach that massive handle, and he is not going to waste it. With a powerful burst of energy, he launches himself into the air toward the giant handle. It is a high-stakes jump, but he is putting everything he has into this single movement. He soars through the sunlight, aiming perfectly for the target that looks miles away from the ground. Time seems to slow down as he reaches out with his claws to catch the metal. His tiny claws latch onto the cold metal of the handle as he dangles high above the floor. He uses all of his strength to try and pull the latch down despite his small size. He hangs onto the handle with all his might, but the door does not budge even an inch. It seems his grand escape plan has hit a literal wall because the door is completely locked. It clicks in his head that the fairy was being so quiet because it knew the door was shut. He gives the floating spirit a sharp look while hanging there between the floor and the ceiling. As he hangs there in frustration, a strange red light begins to crackle around his small body. It seems like his hidden powers are finally starting to awaken in response to his desperate situation. Even though it was locked, the sheer weight of his body hanging there causes the door to creak open. A bright light spills into the room from the other side as the heavy barrier finally gives way. After the lock gives way, he lands safely on the floor while the massive doors slowly begin to part. He watches with bated breath as a sliver of light enters the room for the first time. The fairy looks absolutely terrified, and he wonders if it is going to go smitch to Christina. If it does, his short-lived freedom might be over before it even really began. A strange light begins to hum in the air as the tension in the room finally reaches its peak. Our boy is caught off guard by that reaction and wonders what exactly is going on in that tiny head. The little fairy just nods frantically, like its life depends on it, which is honestly probably true in this palace. Our protagonist scratches his head thinking this situation is turning out well for him, but something still feels off. He focuses on the task at hand and prepares to finally step out of his golden cage for good. This is the moment he has been waiting for, and he is not going to let anything stop him now. He is completely stunned by the sight and wonders what kind of massive facility he has been trapped in this whole time. Our tiny protagonist discovers a massive hall that looks way too fancy for this supposedly abandoned place. He notices how incredibly clean the environment is, which suggests that the owners might still be nearby. Our hero takes a moment to rest while wondering how he ended up in such a bizarre and dangerous situation. The spirit companion starts to panic because it realizes they need to leave before the guards find them. He decides to scout the area ahead to see if there are any hidden exits or dangers waiting for them. He realizes he won't have much time to explore this place before someone noticed he is missing and comes looking. A brilliant idea comes to him as he realizes he can use his knowledge from his previous life to escape. Since he was carefully watching Christina earlier, he knows exactly how to replicate the teleportation spell for himself. He pushes his tiny body to the absolute limit so he can successfully activate the high-level magic he witnessed. The light becomes blinding as he prepares to jump through space, wondering where he will actually end up landing. The activation is a success and he feels his physical form being pulled through a rift in space and time. The intensity of the manhwa nearly overwhelms him, but he refuses to lose focus during the dimensional transition. His thoughts drift to his past life and how this magical world operates on a completely different set of rules. Even his feathered companion is terrified as they are launched across the world at a breakneck pace. They finally arrive at their destination, but the landing is incredibly rough and leaves our boy dazed on the ground. He groans while picking himself up and feels a bit of relief that he managed to bring his companions along. Meanwhile, the fairy is absolutely losing its mind and flying in circles like the world is ending. Honestly, fair reaction. Our boy tilts his head in confusion, wondering why the fairy is so stressed when Christina used this magic easily. A sudden realization hits him and he freezes in shock as he starts to connect the dots about their situation. He realizes that Christina probably had a much bigger plan than just leaving one simple spirit behind to help him. Looking at his two exhausted friends in this new forest, our boy wonders if this is even something he can fix. Our boy was clearly struggling, sweating buckets as he tried to process whatever just happened. He just stood there in the middle of the woods, looking like a total lost cause while the local wildlife watched. His little bird friend chirped at him to see what was up, but he knew that overthinking it wasn't going to change his current situation. He gave the tiny bird a gentle head pat to reassure it that everything was going to be fine. With a new sense of purpose, our protagonist decided to stop moping and finally start moving through the forest. He stopped for a second to watch some ants hauling glowing crystals, which is honestly a pretty weird sight even for this world. Life as a tiny creature actually has some perks since he spends his days exploring every corner of this massive wilderness, from swimming with bright blue fish to balancing on high branches. He suddenly dove into a thick pile of leaves, probably trying to stay hidden from anything bigger and hungrier than him. Our boy poked his head out of the greenery with his bird buddy right behind him to make sure the coast was clear. He decided that the ground view sucked, so he scaled a massive tree to get a better look at his surroundings. From up there, he spotted a massive glowing green dome that seemed to be pulsing with some kind of intense energy way off in the distance. He was honestly blown away because he had no idea the outside world was this huge or this magical. The view of the mountains surrounding that mysterious valley was absolutely breathtaking, but it also reminded him how far he had to go. He began his descent from the canopy, crashing through the layers of leaves as he plummeted back toward the ground. He landed right in a bush with a loud rustle, nearly giving himself a heart attack in the process. Suddenly, a tiny, glowing fairy creature popped out and looked just as shocked to see him as he was to see it. Our protagonist started thinking about his magic and realized that if he could actually master teleportation, his life would get way easier. He kept thinking about someone named Christina, who was apparently super capable and might be the key to unlocking his true potential. Our protagonist is tired of feeling like a helpless weakling and is betting everything on this new alliance to help him finally unlock his true potential. The little bird made itself right at home on top of his head while he focused on the path forward. He kept pushing through the tall grass, determined to find something useful in this massive magical forest. He stopped dead in his tracks and started sniffing the air because a very specific scent had caught his attention. His eyes widened as the realization hit him that this smell was incredibly familiar. Whatever it was close, and he could feel his heart starting to race with excitement. He started tracking the scent like a pro, following his nose while the little fairy hovered nearby to see what the fuss was about. His eyes practically turned into sparkles when he finally spotted the source of the amazing smell hidden in the brush. Tucked away inside the thick leaves was a single stem with a bunch of bright red berries that looked delicious. It was a spiritual plant, and it was just sitting there waiting for someone to come along and claim it. The pure energy coming off this little plant is absolutely incredible and way stronger than anything he ever expected to find on this spiritual mountain. He let out a heavy gulp while his mouth started watering at the thought of finally getting some decent food. Our boy was convinced that eating this thing would be the perfect way to recover all the strength he had lost. The little glowing fairy immediately shifts into defender mode and tries to block his path because it is clearly not going to let him steal its treasure without a fight. The fairy buzzed around the plant like a tiny golden shield, determined to protect the spiritual energy from our hungry protagonist. He was genuinely confused why this little firefly was trying so hard to stop him from getting a quick snack. It was starting to get on his nerves because he just wanted to eat and move on with his life already. Out of nowhere, his bird friend delivered a flying headbutt to the fairy and knocked it right out of the air. With the guardian distracted, our boy saw his chance and lunged forward to grab the spiritual berries before anyone could stop him. Our boy realizes the prize he just grabbed is a bit too big to finish in one bite. But a hungry monster has got to do what a hungry monster has got to do. He goes for it anyway, sinking his teeth into the tough skin of the root with everything he's got. Talk about a mouthful. The spiritual root lay on the grass, clearly showing the jagged edges where he had bitten into its tough skin. Small droplets of concentrated energy leaked from the plant, soaking into the dirt as the severed root began to glow. That smugness vanishes in a heartbeat when his body starts reacting to the raw spiritual power. Something is very wrong, and he knows it. His vision blurs as a strange sound escapes his throat. It feels like his entire internal system is being rewritten by the power he just consumed. Our boy starts hacking and coughing like he is about to lose his lunch. His bird friend is absolutely losing it, chirping in a total panic. He is struggling to keep it down, but the energy is just too much for his small body to handle. The little bird rushes over to help. Now even the forest fairy is joining the freakout session. These two are watching their friend go through it, and they have zero idea how to stop the pain. A massive swirl of green energy suddenly erupts and forces our protagonist onto the grass as he becomes completely overwhelmed by the intense spiritual pressure. Out of the brush, a pair of boots steps into the clearing. Someone was watching this whole disaster unfold from the shadows the entire time. A burst of wind magic strikes the discarded root, knocking it away from our boy. It looks like whoever just arrived is trying to stabilize the chaotic energy. The bird and the fairy freeze in their tracks. They were so focused on their friend that they did not even hear this stranger approach. A hooded figure stares down at our boy with a look that is hard to read. They do not look like a threat, but they definitely do not look happy. The hooded stranger, an elf from the looks of those green locks, raises their hand. They start channeling a much softer, healing energy to counteract the chaotic poison of the raw fruit. The stranger uses a gentle gust of wind to lift our hero into the air and stabilize him while he continues to suffer from the raw energy. The green-haired stranger reaches into their worn cloak to grab a hidden treasure. It seems like they have one more secret weapon ready to pull out for our little protagonist. They toss the glowing orb toward him, guiding it with a steady stream of magical energy. It is a race against time before his heart gives out. Our boy is barely hanging on, gasping for air as the world around him spins. He is too weak to even move a muscle at this point. The glowing seed slides right into his mouth. It is exactly what he needed to settle the storm that was raging inside his tiny chest. The green light envelops him once more, but this time it feels warm and soothing. His breathing starts to level out as the magic does its work. He slowly blinks his eyes open, wondering what just happened to him. The pain is finally fading away into a dull ache. He catches a glimpse of the hooded figure looking back at him. They seem satisfied that the little creature is going to live another day. Without saying a single word, the mysterious elf disappears back into the thick fog of the woods. Talk about a guardian angel moment. Our boy slumped back onto the grass, totally drained. He managed to survive, but he's going to be feeling this one for a while. The bird and fairy immediately dive-bomb him, chirping and crying with relief. They really thought they were about to lose their little leader for good. He tells them both to pipe down and stop crying because he just needs some sleep. Honestly, after a near-death experience, a nap is definitely deserved. The air in this chamber is heavy with the scent of gold and ancient magic. This place is literally dripping with wealth beyond imagination. A blonde woman walks through the treasure chamber with a calm smile. She looks like she belongs in a place this regal and intimidating. Every step she takes echoes against the massive piles of coins. She stops right in front of the massive presents waiting for her arrival. She addresses the beast directly by his name, which proves that she is not even slightly intimidated by his legendary and terrifying power. The dragon Fascia speaks with a voice that shakes the very ground beneath them. He notes that it truly has been a very long time since they last met. He calls her the leader of the gold dragons. She wonders why a being of his stature would request such a sudden audience with her today. A smug grin spreads across a man's face in the shadows. He seems way too happy to see her in this dangerous hidden place. This red-haired man in fancy clothes lounging on a throne thinks he is in charge. He wonders if her business here is actually worth all the trouble. She gives him a polite bow but keeps her guard up. She decides to skip the pleasantries and get straight to the point of her visit. His yellow reptilian eyes narrow as the realization starts to sink in. Something she said just hit him where it hurts. The red-haired man suddenly bolts upright from his seat, in total shock. He looks like he just heard the worst news of his entire life. He looks like he is about to have a total breakdown as he realizes the sheer magnitude of the dangerous situation he just walked into. Our girl stands her ground with a look of pure innocence. She knows exactly how to push his buttons without even raising her voice. Suddenly a flash of a peaceful meadow with butterflies dancing around flowers. It is a total contrast to the tense atmosphere in the dragon cave. A tiny dark furred creature with wings sits in the grass. This little guy is Ferdinand, and he has no idea what kind of chaos is swirling. Our girl reflects on the hidden power this small creature carries. It is a secret that could change the fate of their entire world. She continues her explanation while keeping a very careful eye on the man's reaction. She needs him to believe her story for the time being. The red-haired man grits his teeth in pure frustration. He hates that he has to listen to her, and hates that she might be right. A flaming bird appears as she explains that the child has recently undergone a transformation that makes him a target for every clan in existence. He starts shouting about how unprecedented this whole situation is. He is terrified of what happens if the higher authorities find out the truth. He slams his fist onto the table with a loud bang. He is convinced that the Lord will brainwash and control the child if he finds out. A dark, shadowy figure looms over a tiny, defenseless version of Ferdinand. This is exactly the nightmare scenario the red-haired man is afraid of happening. He settles back and gives her a look that says he is planning something dirty. He thinks he can still use this situation to his advantage. She looks down with a bittersweet expression while thinking about the innocent life caught in the middle of these high-stakes political games. He imagines the child serving his own family and decides that he will use the boy to cement the Fire Clan's legacy forever. She bends at the waist one last time and prepares to take her leave. She has heard enough of his delusional and greedy plans for one day. He watches her go with a twisted smirk on his face. He thinks he just won the jackpot with this new information she brought him. As she walks away, she thinks to herself that he is in for a rude awakening. He has no idea that some things won't just go his way. She unfurls her massive wings and leaps into the sky to leave this place before the fire dragons can come up with any more schemes. Her blue eye glows with a cold and sharp determination. She has a secret plan of her own, and it does not involve the Fire Clan. The inner thoughts confirm that the child is the only heir to Fascius, and his true name is Ferdinand. She worries about the constant clashing between the dragon groups and wonders if this meeting actually achieved anything useful. Her feet touch the soft ground as she returns to a more peaceful setting. She is back to being the guardian of the little one. She suddenly thinks about our boy Ferdinand and wonders if she should bring him back something sweet like milk or cereal. Suddenly her eye widens in shock as a strange sensation hits her. Something is very wrong and the danger is closer than she thought. Christina feels a cold sweat running down her neck as she senses a strange signal from the forest. That definitely was not there a second ago. Fear washes over her as she realizes exactly what is happening. Whatever just appeared near the kids is dangerously powerful, and she needs to move. Without wasting a single second, she kicks off the ground and launches herself toward the source of the magic at full speed. She is moving at breakneck speeds, her manhwa flaring out like a comet as she rushes to the rescue of her little wards. Christina screams out for the kids, her heart hammering against her ribs as she finally spots our boy Roy and the bird in the distance. She skids to a halt in the clearing just in time to see the little white bird flapping around and chirping frantically for help. Our boy Roy looks totally dazed as she scoops him up. She looks at him with pure worry and asks what on earth happened here. Nearby, a strange glowing spirit and a mandragora root are just sitting there on the ground, like nothing is wrong with the world. Christina is frozen with fear as she realizes he actually swallowed a mandragora root whole. These things are incredibly dangerous because they act like a sponge for dragon mana and could cause a fatal reaction in a hatchling. Rai is sweating buckets while unconscious, and Christina gently strokes his head to see if he is having a bad reaction to the herb. She stares blankly into the distance as she tries to process the sheer weight of their situation. This is going to be far more complicated than she ever imagined, and there is no telling what the fallout will be. In the shadows, a mysterious cloaked figure watches the scene unfold, noting that the child's existence has finally been discovered by the wrong people. She lets out a heavy sigh as the immediate panic finally starts to subside. Even though she is completely drained from the shock of finding him, she tells herself she needs to stay composed for the sake of the little one. She pulls Rory into a tight hug and admits that this was all her mistake. She really thought leaving him at the lair would keep him safe. A massive magic circle starts glowing on the ground as she realizes the truth of how they got out here in the first place. It turns out our boy Rory actually attempted teleportation magic as a tiny hatchling and somehow managed to succeed. That is some serious prodigy energy right there. Our little hero finally begins to stir as he hears someone calling him a troublemaker. He slowly blinks open a groggy eye, looking completely drained after using such advanced magic at such a young age. Rai finally blinks his eyes open and stares up at her with those big pink eyes, wondering why she's looking so stressed out. Seeing him wake up sends a massive wave of relief through her, and for a second, she looks like she is about to burst into tears. Our protagonist suddenly feels a massive pang of guilt when he realizes just how much he worried his guardian with his reckless actions. He immediately snuggles into her cheek to apologize in the only way his little dragon body can, trying to comfort her as best he can. Her HP bar dropped to less than half. Herzisquaman says mu trimino as a relicturally. She tries her best to hold back the waterworks, but seeing his gentle gesture makes it nearly impossible to stay calm. She stays there on her knees for a long time, holding him close while the little bird and spirit watch the touching moment from the grass. Later that night, Rory sits by himself on his bed, surrounded by a faint pink aura, while he tries to process the mana he absorbed. He is sweating from the sheer effort of it, trying to get his internal energy back under control after that wild day in the forest. That mandragora root he ate is still causing some serious turmoil inside his stomach, and he can feel the power churning around his core. After getting through that nightmare of an experience, the little dragon decides he needs to be much more careful with his abilities. He is incredibly thankful that he has been secretly working on his energy cult Ive Shun this whole time to handle the surge. Rai starts cultivating his energy with everything he has, focused on turning that dangerous herb into a source of real power for the future. The little white bird hops over to his side and lets out a soft, worried chirp, wondering what its best friend is doing so late. Our boy looks over with a tired expression, clearly exhausted from the intense mana training session he has been putting himself through. It looks at Rory with those big, innocent eyes, feeling a strange sense of worry for the little dragon as he trembles with effort. A soft, questioning chirp escapes the bird as it tries to understand why Rory is struggling so much, and if there is anything it can do. Ray is literally trembling and his face is bright red as he fights to keep the energy contained within his small body. He reaches out with a shaky hand and gives the bird a gentle pat on the head to let it know he is going to be okay. He finds it hard to believe that there are actually people in this world who care about him so deeply that they treat his pain as their own. He wonders how this girl can look at him with such a gentle smile. Even with the glowing spirit and the white bird around, she's the one who makes this whole moment feel truly peaceful. Our protagonist is caught off guard by all this sudden kindness. He looks away, scratching his head and sweating a bit because he isn't used to people aquae caring about his well-being. His eyes flash with a sharp red glint, revealing far more power hidden beneath his cute exterior than anyone realizes. The little bird leans its head into his paw, sensing the true kindness within this powerful creature. This quiet moment of connection shows that despite his terrifying power, our protagonist really does have a soft spot for those around him. The bird leans into his touch, feeling the warmth of his paw. This quiet moment of connection speaks way louder than any words ever could between them. Our boy gulps hard as a sudden realization hits him. He starts to panic, wondering what's happening to his body, and begs the world for this not to be the transformation he feared. Suddenly, a blinding light erupts from the gem on his chest as wild energy begins to spiral around him. He can barely process what is happening as a terrifying amount of raw power starts surging through every fiber of his tiny body. Our boy is starting his day right by licking up a glowing drop of pure essence. That has got to be a breakfast for champions. He gulps the whole thing down in one go. You can practically feel the power starting to surge through his small body. A brilliant light starts shining right from the middle of his forehead. Whatever he just ate is definitely doing something big. Rai looks down at his paws and realizes fire energy has already seeped into his core. Look at that tiny guy getting a massive power boost. He glances over at the white bird creature and decides the dude is actually pretty helpful. Our protagonist knows how to appreciate a good sidekick. Rai gives the owl a little pat on the head to show some love. He is thinking this guy is a lot more useful than he originally thought. Suddenly, the door swings open and a beautiful blonde woman walks in. Our boy is caught off guard by the sudden visit. She stands there looking down at the two of them with a serious expression. Rory immediately turns on the charm and acts as cute as possible. She picks him up like a little stuffed animal. Even though he is a powerful creature, he looks completely helpless in her hands. Rai reassures her that he will be just fine because a little exhaustion like this is nothing for a dragon like him. She looks at him with so much affection and calls him her sweet child. It's clear she cares about him more than anything else. Even though she heard about his situation from others, it was still hard for her to believe. Those blue eyes are full of complex emotions. Rai just sits there while she explains that his recovery rate is completely unprecedented. Even with her help, he should not be healing this fast. The atmosphere shifts as she thinks back to something much darker. A shadow looms in the background, suggesting a very dangerous past. Our protagonist senses the change in her mood and looks back with a sudden focus. He knows she is hiding something important. Those pink eyes are searching for answers as he stares her down. Our boy might look like a pet, but his mind is sharp. She pulls him close for a squeeze while looking deeply lost in her thoughts. This poor woman is carrying some heavy secrets. Suddenly, she holds him out at arm's length again. Rory looks a bit startled by the sudden movement, but he stays perfectly still. She gently takes his tiny paw in her hand. It is a quiet moment that shows just how much she wants to protect him from the world. Her expression is a mix of wonder and worry as she studies him. She knows he is something far beyond a normal creature. Rai just tilts his head and wonders what the heck she is looking at. He is still figuring out his own place in this world. She explains how the gods use this ancient spoken word magic to pass down sacred knowledge to the world. This conceptual magic is incredibly deep because it literally implants the source of a dragon's knowledge into a new host. A glowing vision of a dragon lady appears showing how the receiver gains the caster's abilities and knowledge. It can even cause entirely new powers to awaken within them. The extent of all that power depends entirely on how mature the recipient's mind is. That explains why our boy is such a beast. In the vast void of his mind, Rory looks like a beacon of light. His consciousness is already far more advanced than any normal hatchling. But this kind of magic comes with a price, since it puts a massive burden on a newborn. It's a lot for one kid. This power carries a terrifying risk because it can actually pass down a caster's dark and dangerous ideologies to the host. The blonde woman kneels down to his level and mentions there is also a very powerful restriction on this magic. She is thinking about the future and how much weight he will have to carry. Her resolve is starting to show through. She feels a deep sense of sadness while considering the difficult life of a warrior he will be forced to lead. Rai watches her closely and realizes that her love is the most real thing he has found so far. He is definitely not a normal pet. She whispers that honestly she had a very different plan for him. Her voice is barely more than a soft mumble. A warm smile returns to her face as he happily clutches his bottle of milk. Despite all the ancient magic and heavy destiny, he is still just a hungry kid. He looks back at her with pure joy, matching her happy expression. She truly wants him to have the chance to experience a normal, carefree childhood. She watches over the little hero while he sleeps peacefully and wonders what kind of burden his destiny will truly become. The tiny hero looks up at his caretaker with wide eyes while internally processing the massive secret she just revealed, but inside his thinking back to his past life. He knows all too well how quickly things can change. He remembers that life is often far more cruel than anyone would ever expect. A single shadow can ruin everything. He recalls a humble room filled with simple furniture. It feels like a lifetime ago. He thinks of a hand reaching out for a jade ornament. This tiny trinket carried so much weight. A woman sits on the floor, weeping over shattered fragments. It is a memory of pure, raw grief. Our boy snaps back to the present with a sharp cry. The past is gone, but the future is coming fast. The atmosphere in the room suddenly shifts as a bright, golden light begins to fill the space. A massive magical circle erupts on the floor, pulsating with ancient power. Christina watches the spectacle with a look of pure determination, holding our boy close as the energy swirls around them. She walks toward the center of the ritual. The magic is so bright, it almost washes out the entire hall. The blonde woman moves with purpose as she positions herself directly over the complex magical sigils carved into the hall. Every step she takes makes the floor hum with a terrifying amount of energy that could easily backfire if she loses focus. Our little protagonist watches with a mixture of awe and terror. He can feel the weight of what is happening. The little guy starts sweating buckets and shaking like a leaf as the intense magical pressure begins to crush him. He tries to brace himself for the impact, but the sheer weight of the ritual is far more than he can bear. Christina looks down and whispers for him not to be too nervous. She is trying to keep him calm. He takes a shaky step forward into the heart of the magic. The runes react to his presence immediately. The golden light forms a pillar reaching toward the ceiling. Everything is about to change for our boy. Christina takes a deep breath and closes her eyes. She is preparing herself for the ultimate sacrifice. Glowing light gathers between her hands as she declares her full name is Christina L. Arcadia. She begins the incantation, offering up her own life and every single one of her memories. Christina shouts that she shall pass everything down to this child as magical energy overflows from her body. The power surges through the runes and surrounds them both in a blinding display of golden light. The symbols from the circle begin to burn directly into our boy's eyes. He is being marked by her legacy. Runes start crawling across his fur and skin as the transfer truly begins. He is the new vessel. He lets out a strained cry as the sheer volume of information hits him like a tidal wave. It feels like an entire archive is being forcefully dumped straight into his brain. It's mental overload. Pain surges through every fiber of his being as the protagonist remains enveloped by a storm of glowing golden runes. He pushes himself to the absolute limit, determined to survive the mental overload even if it kills him. His eyes glow with a blinding white light as the final surge of power completes the connection. The light starts to fade, leaving them both exhausted on the stone floor. The deed is done. Our boy tries to stand, but his legs are like jelly. He can barely keep his head up. Christina sprints toward her fallen friend with a look of utter desperation after seeing him drop to the floor. The ritual might be over, but she is terrified that the price of success was the life of her precious companion. She scoops him up into her arms, begging him to wake up. Her voice is filled with desperation. A single tear rolls down her face as she stares at him. She has given him everything she had. His little paw clutches her dress in a weak, reflexive grip. He is still in there. He slowly opens one eye, looking up at her with a dazed expression. The transfer was a success.